So I have a pretty simple message for you. How many of you guys use Slack or some sort of collaboration tool that involves chat? How many of you say to someone, hi, when you DM them? Notice the jeering. Here's the one message I want to convey. If you say someone, you're trying to be polite, right? You're just saying hi. But now that person has to think and say, okay, why is this person messaging me? Are they just saying hi, or are they going to have an ask? And are you entrapping them into sort of forcing their attention or your attention to them? And so I just want everybody to be considerate when you tell somebody hi, actually mean hi and don't necessarily have an ask. And if you have an ask, just say what you want and they'll get to you when they can. So that's my talk.
Yes.
Okay, so this will make it fast. Audience participation. Anybody who thinks that they are the smartest person in the room or amongst the smartest person in the room, raise your hand. Okay, we had a few. Now, if you think that you are amongst the least smart people in the room, raise your hands. Keep them up. Now, if you raise your hands, look around and see the other people who raise their hands. And so the next time you think that you are not smart enough to understand something, or to ask a question, or to fix a bug, or to have an opinion, or to give value to the community, or to have a seat at the table, I want you to remember all the hands that you saw put up. And those hands should say to you that yes, you can understand this thing, your question is worth an answer, you can fix that bug, your opinion does matter, you do have value, and you do belong at the table, because everybody else in the room who raised their hands thinks you do.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Slate. I have 1 minute to make 2 requests of you. Number 1, please support the Minneapolis Climate Action and Racial Equality Fund. To quote, the fund will engage residents most affected by climate change by supporting solutions developed by those communities. I believe that when RailsConf comes to a city like Minneapolis, that city should be better off for having had us there. You can help simply by purchasing extra RailsConf t-shirts, or you can make a donation at the t-shirt station. Also, please come to the Epion Health Happy Hour so I can thank you for your donation. If you don't donate, come anyway. It's at 7:30, Lakes and Legends Brewing Company. It's just a 4-minute walk, and there will be games and gift card giveaways. The location and time are also on the board out there and stuff. And if you want to come have a drink and then go to the Weed Maps thing half an hour later, that's totally fine too. Thank you.
What's up? Are you all tired today? I know, right? But also very excited.
Yeah!
Yeah, me too. Okay, anyway. Hello.
Oh, I get to be hype man too. Sorry, continue.
Thank you. I'm Morgan Fogarty. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. I am a former dancer and choreographer turned web developer. And today I'm going to tell you who I am, why I'm cool, and why I love this community, and why you should hire me. Ooh. This is me now, currently. This was earlier today.
Really great ears.
So I danced for about 3 decades. In college at the University of Kansas, professionally in New York City, and as a choreographer and professor in Chicago. And then I decided that I wanted to see what a regular job would be like, because although modern dance is fun and fulfilling, it pays in literal peanuts. Get it? Like, it doesn't pay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh!
Yeah, like, they don't actually give me peanuts. Okay. They wouldn't give me peanuts, like nothing. Okay. So anyway, I moved to LA because it was warm there, and I worked at an entertainment law firm in Beverly Hills. And the important thing I took from this experience was that it was not a place for growth, it was not fulfilling, it was not exciting. And so I moved on to the next thing. So I left Beverly Hills and embarked on a road trip with my partner that lasted about a year and a half and spanned 38 states. This part of my backstory was very exciting and fulfilling, but not really sustainable forever. We settled in Portland, Oregon in the beginning of 2017, and I took an HTML and CSS class, and it was so exciting, and my brain started lighting up like it did when I would choreograph, and so I knew that that was the next step that I could take in my career, well, to have a career. I attended a full-stack JavaScript code school, and after graduation, I was a TA there for a few months. I loved doing that. I loved TAing, and I loved teaching. After my TA experience, we relocated to the Bay Area, and I got into the blockchain space. Since I was a new kid in a big school, the Bay Area, I decided to jump onto the newest thing so that I'd have some knowledge that even senior programmers didn't have, potentially. And that led me to a work study where I would lecture about the Solidity programming language to students at Galvanize in San Francisco. Then I had a short-term React contract with a blockchain company, and then I got a job in tech events. During that time, I gave a talk at Waffle.js in San Francisco, and in it, I talked about and demonstrated how I choreographed the implementation of an algorithm. This is just a little part of the dance. Also during the events time, I was gifted a ticket to RailsConf West. I'd only written a tiny bit of Ruby code, but I thought, like, I'll just go for it. Great. And RailsConf is so lovely, and you should all definitely go. Is Bobby Lee here right now?
Woo.
Oh, she quit. She's not supporting me right now, but I'm sure there are still tickets available, and you should go. I was struck by how welcoming and inclusive the community was. I got to watch a lemur-themed innumerable methods talk by Brandon Weaver. We all talked about tech and community and life at this freezing cold lake, and the experience convinced me to learn Ruby on Rails. So while at my events job, I read the Rails book, and then I decided that I'd learn even more by building a thing, and so I'm building and iterating on a thing, and it's this thing. It's called DressMe, and it's a virtual stylist. Users can build an inventory of all their clothes and then mix and match to make outfits. And there's still a lot to build because software is never, finished. And now I will fangirl out about this community because it keeps showing up for me, and it's incredible when you're entering a new field. So while building DressMe, I've had the privilege of pairing with a few senior developers, and they're generous with their time, and they're awesome people. Last month, I attended Ruby by the Bay. It's the West Coast version of Ruby for Good. Please learn about Ruby for Good and support it, sponsor it if you can, go to it. It's amazing. There, I worked on a team with 6 senior developers, and together we scoped and architected and implemented a feature for an app in just a couple days. And these team members were supportive and would answer. What? Are you for real?
Okay, you got 10 seconds. You were 10 seconds late. Go, 10 seconds, go.
Listen, I'm looking for a job, so
Oh, wait,
you know.
wait. I started Morgan late. Morgan's 10 more seconds.
Why?
Go. 10 more seconds. Go.
Okay. Oh, more slides. Okay. Okay. Then I did Railsbridge. I TA'd. It's awesome. And oh, here, this is me. Hire me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Michael de Hoog. I work at Coinbase on the back-end platform team. And I'm going to talk about the Coinbase Service Framework today, or how to introduce strong APIs in Rails, strong API contracts in Rails. So a little bit of background about Coinbase. Coinbase.com is served by a 500,000 line Rails monolith, which we affectionately call the monorail. It's 2,500 routes. It's pretty, the API footprint is pretty big. The last couple of years we've been growing pretty rapidly, and that's led to our APIs evolving very quickly. And the largest consumer of these APIs are our internal apps, so web, iOS, Android. So let's take a look at a bit of an example API. Suppose we want to expose some cryptocurrency prices. So we create this spot rate controller, and we expose it as a JSON object, which has the cryptocurrency tickers as the keys, and then the values of the prices. And then later on the line, we decide we want to add a bit of metadata to this, so we add a color, and and we have to sort of rejig our API such that it returns a top-level array instead of an object. But we still want to support the old version of the app, so we have to keep both in sync. And then maybe we want to convert a rate to a string because some cryptocurrency doesn't like floats, something like that. And then we need to paginate because we've added so many cryptocurrencies over the past few months that we need to paginate this endpoint, right? So this is a contrived example, but the idea here is that as your company grows and you make new features, your API evolves, and it's hard to keep all of that up to date. So our external APIs are driven by Rails, JSON APIs, but internally we have a lot of gRPC and protobuf services. And with protobuf, you are able to define a contract ahead of time with strongly typed messages and RPC endpoints. And we thought, how can we bring some of this magic into Rails? And that's what birthed the Coinbase Service Framework. So what might that look like? So take this example of before. With this spot rates API, we define a typed spot request and a spot response. This is a protobuf file here. And then we define a service down the bottom that has an RPC endpoint that is typed, takes a request, returns a response. How do we get this in Rails? So this is what the routes.rb file might look like. We have this special CSF command here that is taking a controller which handles a protobuf service, and it automatically creates all the routes required for that service. And this is what the controller might look like. As I said, we're defining which service we're handling here, and then we implement the service. So in the protobuf earlier, we had one RPC endpoint called spot, and here we're taking a typed protobuf message as the input, and we're returning a typed protobuf message as the output. And note, this is just a normal action controller. We can do callbacks before action, stuff like that. And under the hood, we're doing content negotiation, so you can support both protobuf and JSON on the wire. You can curl your endpoint. It's very debuggable, and it's all sort of hooked up automatically. Extra features, we do client generation, so no more manual integrations of your API, no more out-of-date clients, and automatic documentation generation as well. So we've found protobuf and the strong contracts in protobufs and Rails to be a really good fit, and we've had success from that. So that's the end. Thanks.
My name is Cindy Backman, and my Twitter handle is Sinner. I'm married. That's my husband, James, and one of our hobbies is riding in a motorcycle club. We have two awesome kids. That's my son, he's 18, and our daughter is 12. And then I work for a really awesome company. This has sound. Shoot.
Oh. Oh.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
So, Confreaks. Who's heard of Confreaks? Hey. So, I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Confreaks. And, yay. We've made a lot of changes over the last 6 to 8 months. And we are currently a woman-run business now. I don't know how many people in here actually know the owner, which is Kobe Ranquist, and he's my brother. So he owns Confreaks, but the last 3 or 4 years it's been ran by me, and now we're an all-female, all-women company running it. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew where you can find the videos for the conference after Rails is over. They should be out in about 3 to 4 weeks. You can find them on our YouTube channel. We aren't using confreaks.tv much anymore. We will still direct videos from there to YouTube, so if you use that site, you can still find them there, but they'll just directly go to the YouTube channel. We didn't want to break any links and that for the old videos from different conferences. And I also just wanted to give a couple of tips for those that speak. So when you're a speaker, one thing that you can do that will greatly help not only those that might be recording, but yourself, so that you're calm and a little more relaxed when you first talk, is to always test your laptop at the venue you're at. Every venue has different equipment. There's different projectors, there's different recording equipment, there's different equipment. And if it worked at the last venue you were at, it might not work at this one. So if you can take a few minutes and test your equipment, your laptop ahead of time, it will make a big difference. And it's just when you can walk in and set up and know that your laptop is gonna work, it's easier to give your presentation, and it makes it easier on us. And then not all laptops, oh, that's not right, not all laptops act the same. So it's really good to bring your adapters and plug them in to power. Some of them now, actually, if you don't have them plugged in, even though they're full power, will start to flicker depending on how many transitions or how heavy your transitions are. So if at all possible, it's just best to plug your laptops in. Even if you're full power, plug your laptops in, or full battery. That's why mine's plugged. This is not my laptop, by the way. Heather with Ruby Central was so great to let me borrow it because mine's live streaming. So, and then always repeat the question. And this is during your presentation and during Q&A, because sometimes conferences can be a little bit smaller or there's less people and you might be talking back and forth during your presentation, and not everybody can hear, and we don't always have the privilege of having signing in all the rooms. So it's really good to repeat what someone has asked, or even repeat what someone has said or commented. And then questions at the end of your talk, if you don't repeat them, if it's being recorded, they will not be on the video, because someone watching it, it's not gonna make sense most of the time. So always try to repeat, just to be kind to those that can't hear or maybe don't understand what's being asked. So I'm with Confreaks. We love being here. We love this community, and thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Hartl, and I'm here to tell you about a text area on the internet, also known as the Learn Enough Scholarship Program. Learn Enough is my current venture. It's an educational product company that I and a couple of friends founded a few years ago. Among other things, we make a series of tutorials on programming and related subjects, starting with Learn Enough command line to be dangerous, and going through things like CSS and layout, JavaScript, and Ruby. Among other things, these tutorials provide sufficient background for the Ruby on Rails tutorial, which I think maybe some of you in this room have read before. By the way, I am planning to update the Rails tutorial for Rails 6. That's in preparation. All of these tutorials are available as ebooks, as downloadable offline videos, and as more structured courses. And one of the things you learn when you put these kinds of products on the internet is that people will email you saying, hey, I'd really like to use your product, but I can't afford it. You'll get students, people who are between jobs, maybe people from countries where the exchange rate makes the cost prohibitive. And so my co-founders and I thought, well, maybe we'll run a scholarship program. The only problem was we didn't know how to run a scholarship program. So we thought, well, what's the minimum viable scholarship program? We thought, well, how about a text area on the internet? There are a few fields here, but the heart of it is literally just a text area that says, tell us a little about your situation. So we put this up there, and we got just a wave of people. There are so many people who are interested in learning these things, who are just limited by this one factor. And one of the things we discovered is that even though this situation might seem ripe for abuse, people don't abuse it. When you give them a chance to share their story in confidence, They're honest, and they're really inspiring. Now, one of my co-founders had the bright idea to ask people who received the scholarship if they were willing to share a picture. Not everyone has to, but quite a few people have shared pictures. We also gave them a Learn Enough logo in case they wanted to incorporate it into the pic. And so I want to show you some of the kinds of people who show up to this sort of program. And I'd like to note that these are not cherry-picked examples. These are literally just the most recent people who've submitted pictures. So we start with Kevin. Kevin lives in Cape Town, South Africa. He noted in his email that that's Table Mountain in the background. It's a local landmark. It's a little dark here, but I think you can see this is Don. He tells us that he's 76 years old. He lives in the US, and he's learning to code. He sees a lot of opportunities for people with technical skills in his area. This is Gabriel. He's from Nigeria, and he didn't really know where to start. So I said, start with the command line. Doesn't even assume you know what the command line is. If you can use a computer, you can start with the command line. And so we did. This is Vincent. He's also from Nigeria. You might see in the background there's kind of a local decor going on there, but if you look closely, there's some America going on too. That's a New York Yankees shirt he's wearing. This is Ava from Texas. She actually submitted 2 photos. This is kind of the regular photo, and then kind of the glamour shot. This is Hussein from Togo, which is a West African nation between Ghana and Benin. You can see he's got the second monitor there, he's got the headphones, he's got the Samsung Developer Conference t-shirt, if you look really closely, so he's dialed in and ready to go. This is Linda from Australia. Linda wasn't comfortable sharing a picture of her face, which is cool. That's perfectly fine, but you can see she's also there, completely ready, focused, and she's good to go to learn. I counted up for this talk, and it turns out that we've actually given out over the past few years almost 1,000 scholarships. So almost 1,000 Learn Enough scholarships. Just based on this one thing. Yeah, thank you. And so this is really testament to what you can do with the text area on the internet. Again, I'm Michael Hartl. You can find me at mhartl on Twitter and other places. My websites are learnenough.com, railstutorial.org. Thank you very much for listening.
All right, hey everybody. My name is Lee Richmond, and I run a project called Graffiti. We are a GraphQL competitor, and in my opinion, the best way to develop Rails APIs. You can find us at graffiti.dev. And to give you an idea of what Graffiti is, I'm going to walk through an existing Rails app and add Graffiti to it. You can add Graffiti to any existing Rails app. We have some models set up for us. We have an employee, has many positions. Positions belong to a department. And I'm going to run a resource generator just like I would a model generator. I'm going to say I want an employee resource with a few attributes. I'm already up and running with an API, and I have a UI that I can check out my API behavior. I can see that we can filter those employees by all their attributes. First name, we can say the prefix is the letter A, age greater than 30. We can add sort and multi-sort. We can add pagination. All of this stuff comes completely out of the box, and it's also agnostic to active record, though that's our default. It's also able to give you sparse field sets, so only request the fields that you want in the response. Nothing crazy is happening here. This is just a normal HTTP call returning JSON. You can even curl this directly if you want and use all of your existing HTTP toolchain. And of course, Graffiti with a PH, graph, is right in our title, so we'll have to add some other models to our graph. We'll add those positions and the departments. So the same way I say has many and belongs to in active record, I'll do the same thing here. I'll add a filter for the employee ID because that's how I'll fetch the positions. And you can see now that I'll use that same UI and I'll be able to fetch all of that data in a single request. You can see everything loading on the left-hand side, and our UI is showing all the data that was fetched. You can fetch all of this in a single request, or you can lazy load it in multiple requests. And you can get it in a nice little JSON snapshot like that, or you can be rendering to the JSON API specification, which adds a lot of great stuff to normal JSON. Just adjust the content type and you change this stuff on the fly. We also have a schema with backwards compatibility checks. We have end-to-end integration tests that come by default as part of that generator. Error handling patterns so that you're always rendering the right payload with the right response code. And again, this works with any data store. We work with Active Record, or we work with NetHTTP, or whatever your favorite Elasticsearch client is. And we do this with pretty simple code. We do this because we're honoring the concept of a RESTful resource. We're making that a first-class citizen. This is what you actually care about with your API. You care about your domain model. You actually don't care about the request and response as much. Those are kind of implementation details that you could always generate from this configuration. And we're going to be left with code that still feels Railsy. We have a controller, we have a route. Nothing is really different here other than the word resource. And we're essentially just saying, hey, rather than fetch the model directly, let's go through this resource concept, which is an abstraction around your API, the same way that a model is an abstraction around your database. Now, to understand all of this from a conceptual level, we have to talk about REST, because I think it's a misunderstood concept. This is how I envision REST. It is a graph of data. We don't need something like GraphQL to model a graph of data. We already have that with REST. The green lines here are hypermedia. They're the links between resources, and they allow you to lazy load data across separate requests, so you don't have one really slow request. You can break that up however you'd like. Clients just need to follow those links. And the problem is that GraphQL introduced an entirely new paradigm. We kind of went back to SOAP, and we went back to RPC, and we got rid of REST, and we had to fill in a lot of gaps, and we're kind of experiencing a lot of the lessons that we already learned a number of years ago. Rather than getting rid of this concept, what we need to do is build on top of it. We need to add eager loading to REST and eager persisting. We should be able to load a single entity or multiple entities in a single request, and we don't need to change paradigms to do that. With a simple post resource like this that's just declaring its attributes, we're able to have an adapter, and our adapter is Active Record by default. But that adapter is going to give us a number of different things. We're going to have the ability to fetch everything in a single request. We're going to be able to say, fetch me the posts and the comments, but only the active comments, and sort them by created at. We call that deep querying. You have automatic queries, because again, you just write that adapter once. You have overrides, you have the ability to customize, but you can get all that out of the box. Support for any ORM or data store, end-to-end integration tests, the ability to select only the fields that you want, a backwards compatible schema, lazy loading, eager persisting, validation errors. A lot of these things are things that you're going to have to build yourself if you go down the route of GraphQL. They come out of the box with the graffiti. Microservices, too.
Microservices.
Hello, everybody. Almost 10 years ago, I stood up here and I talked about big world problems, such as corruption, famine, disease, the ecological crisis, and a dream of a concept that could solve them all. That concept is the utopia of a participatory democracy. Today, I can say that this concept is no longer a utopia, a dream. This is a reality in my country, in Spain. I work for the government in Madrid, and during these last 4 years, we've been building an application in Ruby on Rails, open source, with what we consider are the basic building blocks of a participatory democracy. This is the application. One of the main features of this application is participatory budgeting. With this module, we've already spent $400 million in ideas that the citizens have proposed. How this works is we open the process every year, 100 million euros, and the people start giving ideas. I want a park, I want a hospital, I want a nursery room. And then the government gives a monetary value to everything. You want a park, that's 20 million euros. You want a hospital, 50 million. You want a skate park, 1 million. And then, similar to a shopping cart, you have your 100 million euros, and you start selecting what you want. No? I want the hospital, the solar panels, the bicycle lane, a few others, and that's it. Vale? You have your 100 million, good choices, thank you very much. And then the most voted projects, they get executed. No? Every year, more or less, 300 projects win the participatory budgets and start the process of getting executed. No? When they're done, we put lots of pictures on the website, and we even describe chronologically how that project went from being a winner in the participatory budgets to becoming executed and a reality in the city. Fantastic projects. Collective intelligence works. Another couple of modules, other collaborative legislation module, also known as crowd law. This is when people get involved in the participation of a law. No? Every law that Madrid wants to post, they put it on the website. No? And the people get all nervous. They're like, oh, this is crazy. They start voting down paragraphs, sentences, start suggesting new things. And these comments are taken into account in the next drafts of the law. Version 1, 2, 3, 4, until you have a final law with the participation of the people, which is always better. Another great module are referendums. Anyone can propose a referendum in the city. And if enough people think it's interesting, 1% of the population, then we set up a whole show with hundreds of volunteers, public workers, with physical ballots, where you go and you vote this idea that someone had there, no? And then the government does whatever the people have decided. These ideas of participation are catching on. Other governments are liking it. These are all the governments in the world that are using Consul right now, from New York, Buenos Aires, Paris, Mogadishu in Somalia, lots of places. 100 governments in total, in 33 countries, giving access to more than 90 million people to use software, schools, universities, prizes from the United Nations, Fukuoka Awards, etc., and Consul Democracy Foundation that we just founded to make sure that we stay on the right lane and we keep growing. So if you like these ideas, please check it out. We're at GitHub from day one, GitHub Consul. I'm Voodoo 2000. Thank you very much.
My name is Vladimir, and I'm going to tell you a fairy tale about one pull request and his history. You probably know what I'm going to talk about. So once upon a time in January, and the year was 2016, I opened a pull request to Rails for this great feature I thought those days, action cable testing. So let me kind of navigate you through the history of this pull request. A few months later, the corresponding issue has been opened in RSpec Rails. Oh, we need this feature. If Rails got this kind of testing, we also need this kind of testing. It's still open. But we're going to fix it till tomorrow, I think. We want it, at least. So one funny thing about this pull request, it has visited Rails 2 years before I first time did this. In 2016, it took part in Justin talk in Rails and RSpec for Rails 5. So that's the first time I was on stage at RailsConf. That was pretty cool. And well, in June 30th, this same year, Rails 5 was released without action cable testing. The PR was moved to 5.1. We need more review. We need some kind of traction for it. May 10, 5.1 released without action testing. 2017, actually. The same year, I decided, well, we need something to do with this. Some people might need this feature, and extract it into a gem. But it hadn't closed the pull request. Another fact, I never used action cable, actually. So even nowadays, I'm not using it, doing a lot of stuff related to it. I never used it in real projects, even bad projects. Anyway, let's continue the story. April 9, Rails 5.2. Yeah, now you know the timeline of Rails releases without action cable. And a year since that, and actually a week ago, Rails 6 RC1 has been released with action cable testing. So, woo! Yeah, I'm not here to kind of tell you about, oh, I was suffering for all 3 years. No. Actually, I'm going to tell you about different stuff, about why that happened, what has changed. Maybe that's because I met DHH asking me about this pull request, once. No, although that's true, that's not the reason why it has been merged eventually. Nothing has changed. The thing is, even Rails is an open source project. It doesn't mean that every, especially major change, major feature, would be merged right away, even if it's kind of complete. But if it has hundreds of lines, it needs to go through some process. It takes some time. Because contributing to Rails is actually contributing to thousands of applications running Rails. That's why it's a little bit different. We can't just merge everything, right? Because, well, even if it's useful. And I'm here to tell you, not be afraid, actually, of contributing to Rails, even if it can take a lot of time. Because, well, that's a process. That's a great framework with a long history. That's how it should work. Rejections doesn't mean that's not something useful. You just can express the idea in a different way, in a jam, gist, whatever, and propose it later again when it's got some attention by the community. Just don't give up. Do what you think you're doing right. Because there are other stories, of much longer time to get a pull request merged. 4 and something years, but I'm not going to recall it here because I already wrote about it. So thank you for those who are contributing to Rails, who are going to contribute. Don't be afraid of doing this. Thanks for having such a great community.
Hey guys, my name is John Epperson. So I created a tool called ShipLane, and I think a number of you have actually at least seen the logo because I put out hundreds of stickers yesterday on those tables, and they were all gone, so I had to refill them this morning. I have more stickers, so if you like them, yeah, I can get you some. So, no sweat. So, ShipLane has a story, like many things. It was inspired by Rails because, well, a lot of things in my life have actually been inspired by it. About a little over a decade ago, I actually backed into a job accidentally. They were on Rails 1.0. I needed a way to pay for college my last year and started working for this company, and I've been doing Rails ever since. And it's been good to me, as has been, I hope, to many of you as well. And it's just been valuable. One of the things that I've always liked about Rails is it kind of lets me have my cake and eat it too, in a way. It promises that if you basically if you go along with the Rails way, so to speak, if you stay on the Rails, then you get these, you're amplified as a developer. You just gain a lot of productivity that way. And I've always loved that, and I want that in basically everything that I do now, because now that I've had it in one place, I feel like I should be able to have it everywhere. And so, some things have happened throughout the years. You may have noticed a thing called Docker happening. A lot of people using it. We keep talking about it occasionally. And, for a while, I wasn't an early adopter of Docker even. But then, they came out with Docker for Mac. And I tried it, and I was like, wow, sweet. So now I'm not up till 3 a.m. trying to solve some random problem, having to know all this stuff about Docker, looking it up on Stack Overflow. It just freaking works. And so it was really cool. I started putting Docker Compose YAMLs in like every repo I had. And that was great because now basically any developer could, they could know nothing, come join the project, create their environment, and boom, they were like working day one in a couple hours. Of course, there's always some caveats, but for the most part, that was true. That was really cool, but I've always worn a DevOps hat in basically every job that I've been in, and so one of the things that I ran into quickly was, okay, so I have this Docker Compose YAML. I did all this work for it, and now I have to rebuild my entire environment in production, and it's actually a bit different. And that was frustrating to me. I hate repeating work. I like to have my cake and eat it too. So I started going down the road of building Shiplane, and it took a long while. Docker has been a bit of a wild west. There's tons of tools out there. You're probably using a few of them, and you're getting stuff into production, but it isn't good enough for me. So what I wanted to do is I want a developer to be able to push and commit, and I want their stuff to end up in production. In fact, you defined your production environment in that Docker Compose YAML. Maybe you don't want that MySQL to be replicated because you have AWS as MySQL, but for the most part, it's the same. So I wanted you as a developer to never have to touch that, and you shouldn't need a team of developers that's almost the same size as your own developer team just to make that happen. So all that going, what does Shiplane do? So Shiplane, like Rails, the goal is to provide you a sane and secure default out of the box. But you should be able to change that as much as you want. And it needs to be able to amplify you so that you, as a developer, actually feel more productive. So that you're not just moving your dirty laundry out of one room in your house to another room in your house, right? You're actually cleaning up your stuff and putting it away. So that's what Shiplane can do, is doing today. I'm looking for, I just want to tell people about it. I'm looking to see if people want to contribute, want to try it out, want to give me feedback, positive and negative. And you know, if you don't like Shiplane, go make something cool, because this is the thing that I want, and I will get your thing if it's, you know, better than mine, I guess. So thanks for listening. This is me. You can find me on Twitter. I would suggest you you DM me. I respond much faster to that. I have my email, all that stuff there. And I have lots more stickers. If you just want to chat with me about Shiplane, or if you like Scotch, I like Scotch, just whatever, come hit me up.
Hello, RailsConf. My name is Lewis. I'm from Bristol in England, and I work on a Rails app called CookPad, and I like to travel. So when I arrived in Minneapolis a few days ago, I thought to myself, I wonder what's going on in the Ruby community right here in Minneapolis. Who's using Ruby? What's happening? About 6 weeks ago, while I was in another city, I thought the same thing. And about 5 minutes after that, I registered a domain name, rubymap.com. So today I'd just like to show you Ruby Map. This is it. It's a Google map. Each pin is a location of an organization or a meetup that uses Ruby, talks about Ruby. But I've got a problem. I would love it if there were more pins on this map. So who wants to be an open source contributor? Fantastic, great. So this is for you. Yeah, so now's your chance. I would love it if you could add your meetup or your event or your organization to this map. Click the link in the top right corner, what's this all about? And then there's a link there through to the GitHub repository, a YAML file where you can enter your details, create a PR right there in the browser thanks to GitHub. And so that's RubyMap, and www.rubymap.com. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jing from Amazon Web Service. I work on AWS SDK for Ruby. Our SDK is open source and available on GitHub. You can find me on GitHub as well. So today I'm going to talk about a new API usage pattern that our SDK supports, which is async streaming API over HTTP2. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes talking about H2 benefits. Instead, I'm walk through like a live demo of like a script that calling one single bidirectional API to show a real use case. So months ago, Amazon Transcribe Streaming Service launched this feature that allows you to send an audio stream and receive a stream of text back in real time, similar to the conference notes. So to play around with this a little bit, I will go to pick an audio file on AWS Podcasts. Purely randomly, I will choose this one that talking about new Lambda runtime experience, including Ruby. So yeah, I will go, this is not, yeah, I will go, does this work? Let me see.
Uh-oh.
Okay, do I need to? Okay.
I wonder if these mountains are computer generated. Maybe. They get crazy with that now. I'm not computer generated, just so you're clear, because I had to go to the bathroom. A computer generated person wouldn't have to go to the bathroom.
Okay, cool. What's this?
2?
Okay. So I'm going to run the demo and go back to the code usage pattern in a minute. What this script do is just making a single API call, and it do the bidirectional streaming for audio stream and get back the transcripts in the real time. Hopefully, conference network doesn't break me. Looks like it is. Okay. Let me try it another time. It's not the token. Okay, looks like, oh yeah, it's working. Okay, one more. So what's going on there is actually doing bidirectional streaming, that you are signaling those audio chunks and it processing those response events in the real time immediately when they're received. So I'm perfect fine like sitting here, like watching this like 30 minutes audio chunk to be completely transcribed, but like I believe Super Mario will give me an alert. So I'm going to kill it here and go back to code usage. So when you are thinking of making an API request, you need to have a client. Even if you have never used SDK before, that's totally fine. We are introducing a new client interfaces called async client, so that you can do unidirectional or bidirectional streaming. In order to like signal events into the input streams, after you started the async request, we introduced this input handler that you can just call signal like your audio files. In order like to proceed like response events immediately when they arrive, we introduce this output handler that allow you to register callbacks so that you don't need to wait for a full response or completely response then to iterate through the result. You can process events immediately when they arrived. Similarly, since we are making an async request, and async response is returned immediately, we are providing this wait method on the async response so it can help finalize a synchronized response eventually. Since it's 5 minutes, so there's more details in the blog post for working through code examples, usage scenarios on AWS developer blog if you are interested. Currently, they're owning 2 APIs that has async streaming over H2 right now. The other one is Amazon Kinesis, which allows you to subscribe to Kinesis data stream, which has enhanced find out. It has really cool performance enhancement. Definitely recommend to try out if you have touched Kinesis. One last thing. Tomorrow morning, we are having this workshop going serverless with Ruby on AWS Lambda. Please drop by if you have any interest. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk about how to read huge open source code easily. Let's get started. Oh, sorry. My name is Yoskiyaki Hirano from Japan. I attend RailsConf for the first time. Have you ever read, thank you. Review your Rails source code? Do you know the request response lifecycle of the Rails application? Do you know the steps of the active records, create, update, validate, and destroy? Do you know the processing of initialization of Rails application? I do not think many of them actually do. To tell the truth, I have not to. I guess we don't have much time and patience. By the way, yesterday I was impressed by Skylight's sponsor talk. The design of the rack application is really elegant. And I want to read the code of its lifecycle of Rails application, but I don't want to spend much time to trace the code. I want to read source code easily. What would you do? Finally, I've shipped a new Ruby gem this morning. The gem name is trace location. This is demo. At first, boot Rails console and set request environment. And execute Rails application call inside trace location trace block. Then it generates a log file. It traces the locations about Rails applications call.
Yeah, when I hit play,
For example, at first it calls by live Rails engine RB 5022 call method. Next, it calls live Rails application 607 build request method. We can understand the processing by these locations, the calls and returns. It helps you can get tracing the processing of the lifecycle of Rails application easily. How it works? Use trace point, that is a Ruby standard API. And the trace point API is one of the black magic in Ruby. This is implementation. Trace point traces all call events and all return events. Next, it collects logs inside the trace point block. Then, before block call, it enables trace point, and it resends trace events while block call, and it disables when it finishes soon. In making this gem, I used the trace point for the first time. It makes me really, really feel so good. Amazing. Thank you. Well, it helps you get deeply understanding Ruby on Rails. It's my pleasure to help you enjoy Ruby on Rails. My name is Yoskiyaki Hirano, freelancer from Japan. I'm a Rails contributor number 62. And I'm chief organizer of Rails DM in Tokyo. I love Rails community. Thank you. We are going to hold a new Ruby on Rails conference. This name is RailsConf. Woo! We hope you join RailsConf 2020 in Japan. Thank you so much.
Okay, hi, I'm Steve, and I'm not a Rails developer. So I thought, what could I do in 5 minutes? I'm going to talk about computer vision. Are there anybody here do data science, anything like that? Oh, thank you. We good now? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to do this in the concept of talking about a magic trick. So I'm sure you're all familiar with card magic. Magician asks you to pick a card. You pick one. They do fancy hand movements. They hide your card. It reappears. It's your card. You confirm it with them, they walk away, you can get back to enjoying your dinner, and hopefully they never come back. But which part of this trick is actually the magic? Is the magic the fact that somebody who's practiced this over and over and over again is able to reproduce this trick? Or is the magic something that we all take for granted every single day? That I can look at this card and almost immediately know which card it is, where it's in the frame, and confirm that it's my card. I think that's the more magical part. Now, this is really a two-step process. We have to think about where the card is in the camera or in our visual field, but we also have to then look at and see what card am I looking at. So if I have a picture of a card, for example, shout out to Heroku for having cards that I could use. So I can look at this and I can say, well, it's the Queen of Spades. And I can do that almost instantaneously. And I can even see, here it is in the frame. But getting a computer to do that is kind of difficult, because computers are dumb. And as software engineers, basically what we do is we teach computers how to solve problems that we don't really want to solve ourselves. And that's where the concept of computer vision comes in. This is where we're trying to train computers to understand the visual world around us. And this has applications in the automotive industry. You talk about self-driving cars. In AR, there's applications to help blind people determine what objects are in front of them. So it's really kind of an incredible field, and I encourage you to get into it if you really want to make that kind of difference. So I'm going to show you just some code samples and some process that you might be able to do to implement computer vision in your own time. I chose to implement it at 2 o'clock in the morning, last night, this morning, and we'll see how far we get with that. So I have this card here. This is the Ace of Hearts. And the idea is that I need to remove as much noise as possible from this image so the computer can then process it. And one of the things I can do is get rid of the color, because I don't need the color to determine where the card is. Once I do that, I can apply some blurring. Now I'm using Gaussian blur here, and the reason that I'm blurring this is because there could be some noise in the image. Like there's speckling because it was low light, because again, I did this at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was tired, it was a dark hotel room, there's not enough lighting. Please find me a better one. But this is also that same idea of where we're softening the image, we're removing some of those imperfections. And the reason that we're removing those imperfections is because we can do what's called canny edge detection. Canny edge detection is really just a fancy way of saying, I want to find all the edges in an image. And it does this by comparing similar colors or similar black and white grayscale values in an image and drawing a line around them. It's way more complicated than that. Luckily, Python has a library that I can just bring in and call the canny function. And you can kind of see the card image starting to take shape. It's that rectangle there that has a heart on it. But there's some gaps in the image. So one technique we can use to help improve the gaps or get rid of them is to do what's called dilation, where we make the lines thicker. Now, the values that I'm putting in here, if you look at where it says kernel and iterations, these are important numbers that determine how this image is going to get processed. And I have no idea how to find the ideal ones. I just plug in numbers until it works, which is also how I develop software. So. It might surprise you, but playing cards are actually rectangles. What? I know, right? And so if I highlight all of the rectangles in the image, the playing card is one of them. But there's so many that I need to do some sort of filtering so that the computer system can try to narrow down which one the playing card is. Really what I'm looking for here are shapes that have 4 edges. Kind of. I'm actually looking for shapes that have up to 6 edges because my thumb gets in the way and adds an extra edge. Now remember, this is only half the process. And I know what you're all waiting for. You want to see this person, 2 a.m. in the morning, videoing themselves holding cards up to a camera. So that's where we're at. So hopefully this works. You can see it's detecting the ace of diamonds there. That was cool, it really worked. This is really dependent on the lighting system. The jack of hearts, it also worked. I was impressed. I may have been drunk too. Well, there you go. I'm Steve. Find me at the Nexmo booth. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Greenberg. I'm one of the advocates at Nexmo, and I live in Tel Aviv in Israel. Just a couple-hour flight here to Minneapolis. This is about the telephone game reimagined as a Rails app. If you don't know what a telephone game is, I first re-encountered this game when my 5-year-old in kindergarten came home describing this really cool thing they did in school where they all stood in this circle and one whispered in one person's ear the message and it went around and around and around and he said, "Guess what, Dad? The message was different when it came back at the end." And I'm like, really? That's so cool. I've never heard of that before. You have to be surprised and excited when your 5-year-old tells you things. But ultimately, what's really cool about the telephone game is it is a great metaphor. It's a great example of cumulative error, especially inaccuracies around gossip and rumor. It has some great intrinsic moral lessons to it. And I thought it'd be really fun to recreate this in some version as a Rails Rails app, and thankfully I work at a company that lets me do cool stuff sometimes, and so I did this for a little bit. And essentially what we're doing is we're using 3 different APIs: the Nexmo Voice API to make a Rails app, the Google Speech-to-Text API, and the Google Translate API. So what's going to happen is the caller will call this application, the phone number. They will speak a message. The message gets recorded, made into text with the speech-to-text API from Google Cloud, and then will be run through the Translate API through 10 different languages and back into English again and played back to that person. So it's kind of like playing a card game by yourself, telephone by yourself, telephone for extreme introverts, telephone when you're just bored or just want to do something. And so let's take a quick look at a small example of the code. You can find the entire code at that URL, nexmo.dev/rails-telephone. As a quick caveat, it was written really quickly. I'm sure there's some things to critique. Please critique gently. I put it out there. And so very briefly, in the controller, we're accomplishing just 2 really basic things at top level. One is we want to deliver instructions to the caller to welcome them, to record their message, and to keep the call alive while it's being processed. And the second thing is we want to check when it comes back from the API, the status that the call is engaged in. If there is a recording, then we know we want to act on that recording. And so we want to do a couple of things. We want to save it locally. We want to transcribe it with the speech-to-text API from Google, and we want to run it through a random selection of 10 languages and then play it back. So on the first right-hand block is what's called a Nexmo call control object. It's a JSON object, and it's instructions that you're sending to the Nexmo API. In this case, this is just a tiny snippet of the record instructions. We want to record it. That's our event URL. I save the actual URL. It's an ngrok URL. It's great when you're doing development work to have an externally accessible URL for your local servers. And we want to say that we want to start the recording with a beep. We want to save it as a WAV file. We want to end it on a pound, and we want to time out if no one says anything after 30 seconds. And then just a little brief snippet there, what we do when we want to play it back. So a little bit of a messaging to you in your console, and then the closing message itself. Your message is translated through Arabic, Hebrew, Hindi, Kurdish, Russian, Turkish, and Yiddish, because why not? And comes back to you in the following, and then we make a call using the Nexmo Ruby gem to nexmo.calls.talk.start, passing in the call ID with the text, the message text, and I picked this random voice name. It's a pleasant voice. There's a lot of pleasant voices. I happen to pick that one. You can pick whatever you like. And at the end of the day, you can actually try this yourself. You can call, not in this room because that's disruptive. You can call on this phone number. I think that's a Minnesota area code. I just got it. And so you can call on this phone number. It'll be alive as long as my computer is open. And when I close my computer, it will be gone because it's running locally. And you can also download and clone the code from GitHub itself at nexmo.dev/rails-telephone. I would love to hear what kind of messages you get back. I had a lot of fun with it. And you can find me on Twitter at Rabbi Greenberg. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, hi. My name is Andrew Neely. I work at Flywheel in Omaha. You might know one of my coworkers, Michael Hartl. I'm a practicing Stoic. It's helped me immensely, and I'm about to talk very quickly because this is Stoicism in 5 minutes or less for developers. Stoicism is a philosophy of life. It describes how to live a good, an ethical life that is worth living. It provides tools for facing challenges great and small. You might break your coffee mug. You might be struggling to grow your software career. You might definitely be going to die someday. So practice with these tools I'll tell you about can create a sense of calm in the face of these challenges. It's a powerful personal benefit, but it's actually not the point. The point is to answer 3 important questions. When to act. Do what you can and should do, except what you can't control, such as what happens next. For whom do we act? For ourselves, mostly to maintain our character. For our friends, colleagues, and loved ones, to be useful to them. For broader good of all people, the human cosmopolis. And how to act. You practice behavior that is good under all circumstances. As DHH pointed out in the opening keynote, market-based approaches have gaps in who and what they serve because individual selfishness is not good under all circumstances. So, the first tool is the dichotomy of control when we act. We only have control over ourselves, specifically our actions and reactions. We accept everything else as either preferred or dispreferred indifference. For example, JavaScript is the most popular language in the world, and there's nothing I can do about it, except to accept it. The next toolbox is the 4 virtues, how we act and for whom. Justice, treating people with fairness and dignity. Let's back up a minute. That crack I just made was very indicative of an earlier stage in my career. It felt clever and good to say those kinds of things, but it's actually not helpful at all. A lot of underrepresented people in our fields come to programming through CSS and JavaScript via design, marketing, and content strategy. Maybe shitting all over what they're good at and enjoy doing isn't helpful to them. JavaScript and CSS are in fact part of the most broadly adopted, freely accessible computer-human interface in history. I should be celebrating this for people it has benefited and using them to build powerful software not controlled by a single vendor. Actionable, hold yourself accountable, show up for others. You can choose to be inclusive. Rewatch yesterday's keynote for lots of good ideas and useful things to do and consider. Courage. Courage is basically feeling fear and doing the right thing anyway. Fear is a powerful signal, but it can lead us backwards towards the right approach. So, actionable. Speak up for others, even when you have something to lose. Apply for companies you think might not hire you. Dive into projects where you don't feel like you're ready to tackle things just yet. In fact, a great way to get started is to do what I'm doing. Give a talk at a conference or at a meetup. It'll give you a chance to conquer your fear, and you'll know something you can share with somebody else. Temperance, discipline. Epictetus said, first ask yourself what you would be and then do what you must do. Self-control is a habit. It gets easier with practice. Just try withholding judgment from the other people in your life when they do something you don't agree with. It's harder than you think, but you can strive to improve yourself. So what's actionable? Well, as far as your personal skills, at the end of every day, review. How did it go? What did I do well? What did I do different? What should I do differently? And then just try a little harder tomorrow. As far as improving your skills as a developer, form a practice routine. Even 20 minutes a day will snowball. Exorcism.io, Justin Weiss's wonderful Practicing Rails book. A little goes a long way as long as you do it every day. Wisdom is practical knowledge. It's impossible for a person to think to learn something they think they already know. So when you're facing a challenge, nature gives us reason to ask, what's actually happening right now? What virtue is critical in my situation, right? Do I need to keep facing the same battles, or should I change my circumstances so I can fight more important battles, right? Struggling. What don't I know? What's the next thing I need to learn? Am I wrong? Failure is always an option, but this can be a good thing. It's one of our greatest teachers. Your obstacles are often your best opportunities. So resources for more. Massimo Pigliucci's wonderful How to Be a Stoic is a great audiobook. William Irvine's Guide to the Good Life. These will give you history and context. And for a daily practice, try Massimo's Daily Stoic Meditations podcast or Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic book or podcast. These will help put these ideas into you every day, and they take no more than 5 minutes to get started. But I guarantee you, if you try and think about this stuff, you'll keep thinking about it, and it'll improve your life. I would love to talk to you, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Andrew Wade. I work for InTouch Health. I like Ruby and dogs, and I hope you guys like some dogs too. So this is filled with bad jokes and good dogs. Rails new. So when you type this into your terminal, you get so excited. You're like, oh, there's so many possibilities, but little do you know what terrible things can happen. So. Another fun Rails association is one has many dogs. What a great association. Snake case. This is a Rails convention that we all know. I loved finding this photo. It was a great one. Filter. Yes, one of these is not a cat. So please filter all the cats. I'm sure Tenderlove would love this one. Dash rise. So here we have a dash hound. I really wish that we could replace all those dashes with dash hounds. I'd be really happy. Fat models. We like fat models. Keep your controller skinny, but I like fat dogs. Empty. This is actually the saddest sight for me, is an empty dog park. There's just nothing in it. Weed maps party tonight. My birthday is on August 20. Oh, no, I don't want to tell you. Duck typing.
No.
I hope you can all sleep tonight. Many of you might be feeling like this right now, so thank you so much for being here, but I'm not done yet. Oh, I am done. All right, so yes, docs are a developer's best friend. Dogs are also my best friend. Thank you so much for being here. And go explore the docs. I had a really good time looking at the docs and finding all this dog stuff. Also, feel free to come up, talk to me about dogs, share your dog memes. I love that stuff. So my name is Andrea. Thank you very much.
Hi, guys. I can barely see over this. I hope you can see me. Hi, I'm Trish Ball. I work for TED Conferences, and I want to talk to you a bit about diversity and the applicant pool. I already had a slide deck put together from a previous presentation, and I figured I'd narrow it down for this, and then I realized I had a lot of info for only 5 minutes. So I decided to forgo that, but not really, because I couldn't get away from it because it's kind of a crutch. So hopefully it's whittled down enough for my 5 minutes. I'm going to start with an apology, because this talk focuses mainly on women in tech, and I know that diversity is way more than that, but the statistics that I needed for people of color and other underrepresented groups was not easily found. To be honest, I had a hard enough time finding the stats that I needed about women. So anyway, I don't want to give fuzzy numbers about those areas, so they're left out but not forgotten. It's worth noting that I did see some similar trends between these groups. So diversity. Like many here, TED is looking to add more diversity to our team of engineers. Like many here, we're struggling with this. We all know that the stats aren't good. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only about 25% of people in tech are women, and of those women, only 36% are women of color. Now, many people say it's a pipeline issue. Not enough women are joining the industry, but it's actually more than that. I had a hunch. Do these statistics remain constant across all experience levels? What I found, no, they do not. This is a question I recently brought up at TED and is something we're currently discussing when determining our hiring requirements. According to the National Center for Women in Information Technology, 56% of women in tech leave by mid-career. And another study shows that 50% of women in all STEM careers leave within 12 years and are more likely to leave within the first few years compared to other women in non-STEM fields. And some people ask, well, aren't they leaving to have babies or to stay at home? Well, no. According to the same study, non-STEM careers, only 20% of women leave during the same time span. And most of the women leave the STEM fields are leaving for careers in other areas, not to stay home. So as a side but important note, these statistics are only looking at gender as binary. Not having non-binary people represented are marginalizing them even more. I hope that the data gets better in the future. Looking at the numbers, 25% of people in tech are women, but 11% are mid to late careers that are women. And of those, how many are knowledgeable in your tech stack? A blind guess, let's say a third of them have knowledge in your tech stack. And that drops your numbers of eligible females for your applicant pool to about 3.7%, give or take a few. And so the takeaway from this is it's not about why women are why women and people of other underrepresented groups are leaving or what we can do to prevent that. Those would be two completely other different talks. But this is to point out the possible issue that maybe hasn't been considered when creating descriptions for job openings. So what to do about it? If you're struggling to find diverse applicants in your pool, maybe you're unknowingly narrowing your diversity in your pool with your requirements. If you only hire senior devs, what would it take to bring on a junior dev or maybe hire interns? Take them on and teach them to be the senior devs that you are looking for. Value everyone on your team and their contributions, especially those of different backgrounds, so they don't become a part of these dropout statistics. I don't like spouting off numbers without anything to back them, so here are my citations. I'd be happy to share them with you if you reach out. Please feel free to reach out to me at trish@ted.com with any more questions, or if you have additional data for me, or if you're looking to change in jobs, because again, we're looking to expand our team and hopefully diversify. Or just grab me if you see me around, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So my name's Dylan Andrews. I'm a Rails developer at an awesome company based out of Nashville called GoNoodle. We make mobile apps and web apps for kids in the classroom and at home, and it's all about getting them moving. Yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk to you about a couple of just cool RSpec tools that we learned about at GoNoodle that help us get to the bottom of some erratic order-dependent test failures that kept showing up in our CI.
Mr. Pylon, can you make your font bigger? It's going to be very difficult.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Is that big enough, or you want bigger?
Yeah, I don't have really.
How's that? Bigger or smaller? Good. Bigger.
Bigger. All right.
Bigger. And big in that. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. You're printing now.
Should I print it? I want to print it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so we were having these erratic order-dependent test failures in our CI. We use Semaphore. Just to preface, our test suite is configured to run all our tests in random order, which is awesome because it fortifies the test suite, and I recommend that, but it does make it difficult to get to the bottom of order-dependent test failures because if it doesn't run in the right order, it doesn't fail. So that was tricky, and it was driving us nuts, obviously, because it was very annoying and disconcerting to have a build fail, and then you would rebuild it and it'd pass, and you'd kind of just be like, I think it's okay. So anyway, I'm just going to sort of talk you through how we got to the bottom of it, and if you ever run into this problem, hopefully you can use it too. So what I'm looking at here is our build in Semaphore. Just for some context, we run our test suite across 4 boxes in parallel just to speed up the suite. And so you can see right here, I've got a test failure on this box. And if can y'all see, or is it still too small? Bigger, all right. All right, so you can see it's failing here. If I scroll to the top, it basically shows me the test that it ran on this box, and then the critical part that was a deal breaker, or that was a game changer for us, is leveraging the use of this seed output. So basically, with this seed, what I can do is ensure that when I run these tests, it runs in that unique order every time that caused the test failure. So if I just copy all this stuff, and then I copy that seed, and then I come locally, and I basically run those tests, and as you can see here at the bottom, I'm passing it the seed argument with that seed number, and I run it. It's gonna, ooh, look at that.
You gotta stretch time here. You
ignore
gotta stretch for time.
All right, yeah. So it runs randomized with that seed. However, that's a lot of tests, so to get to the bottom of it, by running all those tests is going to be super frustrating and time consuming, and that's where this bisect command comes in. So if I run that exact same, thing, but I pass it the bisect argument, what that does is a binary search through that test suite running, and it gives me an output that's going to be the smallest number of tests in the correct order that's going to replicate that failure. So this can take anywhere from, there we go. So this can take anywhere from like 5 minutes to an hour and a half to actually give you that output, but it's still going to be way faster than not using bisect. So I'm not going to obviously have you sit here and look through that, but as you can see, it's saying running your suite to find failures. After that output, it outputs something like this. It'll say the minimal reproduction command is blah, blah, blah. You just run that, and it's going to replicate that erratic order-dependent failure every time super quickly and just make it 1,000 times easier to debug. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks so much.